What I want to show you today is how to knit 2 socks at the same time on 2 sets of double pointed circular needles. So as you can see, I have my socks set up with half of the stitches on one needle, that's this needle here, both ends, and half the stitches of each sock on the other needle. And the yarn comes off in the same position on each. So I have it coming from here on this sock, and then I have a different ball of yarn, obviously, coming from here on this sock, but they're in the same position. And so when I'm ready to knit the next row, since my yarn is here, it's this row that I'm going to knit next. So I will pull down that needle and leave the other stitches on the flexible part of the first needle. So these are the stitches on, let's say, needle 1. And so I'll get it set up here, so I'm ready to knit. You're not worrying at all about this second sock, it's out here. And here we're going to knit the stitches on needle 1 for sock 1. So we'll start right here, and you want to pull that first stitch a little bit tight because of the span of the yarn between the 2 needles. So I'm going to knit through these stitches. Now when I get to the end, oops, I have one more stitch. It looks like this. So I'm working on needle 1 and I'm basically just ignoring needle 2 back in here, but the stitches are able to flex. So now I'm going to pull up the stitches for the second sock and set aside the orange yarn and grab the purple yarn for my second sock, and virtually just ignore this first one and stitch through the stitches on needle 1 of the second sock, again pulling that first stitch a little bit tightly. And when I finish this row, I'm going to be right back to where we started, only needle 2 will be ready to be knitted. So we'll just show you that through that process, and you'll be all set for knitting 2 socks at the same time. I really like this technique because you have the same number of rows that way on each sock, so they actually are exactly the same. So did you see what I just did? I pulled needle 1 up so that the flexible part, all the stitches are on the flexible part of it, and now I'm going to pull down needle 2 in order to start knitting on needle 2 all the stitches. And notice my yarn is in the same position it was in the beginning, only the balls are a little bit twisted. So if I'm doing this on my lap, I just switch the balls when I make that so they don't get tangled up with one another. And so at this point we're going to do exactly the same thing I did. Start stitching, doing all the stitches on needle 2 for sock 2, and then we'll do all the stitches on needle 2 for sock number 1. And that way your socks will be exactly the same. Thanks for watching.